Good evening, Meruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. My family and I sponsor tonight Lichvod Hoshea ben Be'eri. There was a long-standing, I guess, skula, we can call it, and primarily used in the Syrian communities around the world, that people sponsored, whether it was food or classes or other things, in honor of and the merit of Hoshea ben Be'eri, and it seems to have brought positive things to people in their lives. So there was a while that I used to do this every week on Shabbat, every Sudah Shlishit, but then I felt it was greedy not to let anybody else have a chance. So I diversify my portfolio now. Sometimes this shiur, sometimes another thing, each time whatever we can. Just to be precise, by the way, the original, there's no real, I don't know what the real source is, but in the Sfarim that I did find this thing, the original thing was the first Tuesday after Rosh Chodesh, to sponsor Sudat Talmidei Chachamim in honor of Hoshea ben Be'eri. But I think every day is a new day, and it's also worth something. Anyway, so there's a lot going on in the parashiyot and everything. But I actually want to take a Mishnah that in the by the Sfaradim, we only do Pirkei, like officially at least, only do Pirkei Avot between Pesach and Shavuot, one cycle. The Ashkenaz Jewry continues it throughout the summer. They review it. So in that cycle, in the Mishnah, one of the Mishnayot, the last Shabbat, was a Mishnah that the quote everybody knows. Even kids in pre-K are taught this quote. And the concept is a concept that's drilled into people from a very young age. So I'm not sure if it works or not, but at least in theory it's drilled in. But I want to see what does it really mean? What's the deeper understanding? The Mishnah says in Perek Dal, Mishnah Aleph, in Pirkei Avot, Eizu Ashir, who's considered wealthy, Hasameach Bechelko. So on a very technical or shallow, maybe even level, we could say, the literal translation would mean one who's happy with what he has. That's a very tricky term to just say like that for many, many reasons. Number one, when we were all kids, I'm sure our parents raised us telling us, be happy with what you have. Right? I'm sure we heard that many times. And if any of you have parents that have a large age gap between you and them, then they probably also told you, when I was growing up, wherever it was, or this or that or the other. Yeah, I have some insensitive jokes on that subject that I'm holding back from saying because people seem to have been getting offended by some of my blunt comments lately. But yeah, I don't know. I remember even in yeshiva, we used to come down to the lunchroom. It was not to eat. And then we go to the rabbi and we're like, Rabbi, how do you expect us to learn tomorrow? There's no food. I mean, and we always got the same story about Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen and I was like, well, we didn't go to Auschwitz and we didn't come here on a train, and that's not disrespecting those holy Jews who died al Kiddush Hashem, but let's be real, we're a different generation, have different needs. But that's when you start getting carried away with be happy what you have. There's no end to that, right? So there's no... Imagine walking into Sloan Kettering to visit, God forbid, a cancer patient who has stage 4 pancreas cancer, and the person's suffering and has numbered days medically to live, and telling him be happy you're breathing. Like, really? That would be one of the most evil things to do in the world. Even though in the Pasuk it says, right, Kol Shamat Hallelujah, we have to say thank you and be happy for every breath, but still, that's not appropriate. So obviously, it's not a blanket statement, it doesn't mean exactly that. Number two, we pray for things all day. If you're supposed to be happy with what you have, so how do you pray for... So what are you praying for more things for? Be happy with what you have, and that's it. So why are you praying for all these other things? So the fact that, and our prayers are not coming only from ourselves, which is the most beautiful prayer, but Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, based on a mitzvah, gave us a seder tefillah, a way of praying, which includes, originally it was 18, now it's 19 blessings, 3 times a day in Amidah, which the majority of them are not giving thanks. There's a long list of requests. From health to honest judges to seeing Jerusalem to you name it, anything and everything. What happened to being happy with what you have? So obviously that That's not what it means. Now, being that the Mishnah used the term in what seems to be a financial thing, ashir, somebody who's wealthy, so let's analyze that. We'll take that example and use that first, because that's what Chazal was talking about over there. So in order to go down this road, I want to give a disclaimer, because I believe in giving credit to those that I give me my sources. A lot of what I'm going to say tonight, I learned from an article that I read that was written by a rabbi who I've quoted from a few times in the past from his sefer. His name is Rav Zusha Horowitz. He's a rabbi in Kahal Hasidim in Elad in Israel. And I never had the merit to meet the man, but he's one of my heroes anyway. Everything he touches on is really brilliant. It's unbelievable. His approach, his attitude, everything about it is really brilliant. Not that he needs my approval. So in this article that he wrote, he began with a story that I liked. He said that in shul one day, a guy met his friend, and his friend was before a business trip. He was about to travel for business. So he gave his friend a blessing that was financially oriented, to wish him good luck because he's going to make money. And this is the way his blessing went. That God should help, that you should come back being rich, midoraita, from the Torah. But just to explain, not from the Torah as in that you should be rich with Torah. In the mitzvot that we have mitzvot that are midoraita, that are from the Torah. And then there are mitzvot that are d'Rabbanan. The Chachamim gave us mitzvot for different reasons, either guidelines or barriers or additional mitzvot in certain ways. And Hashem gave the Chachamim the power to do that in that generation. So that's an interesting blessing. Just come back rich. That's a good enough blessing to me. What does it mean, come back rich midoraita, from the Torah? Meaning not rich midrabanan, rich midoraita. So his friend looks at him and he says, what type of blessing is that? He said, what's wrong with just telling me I could be rich? That's good enough for me. I don't care which way it's rich. So the guy who blessed him told him, let me explain you. He said that the Chachamim in Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? The Rabbanan were the Chachamim. The Chachamim were the sages that wrote the Talmud, the Mishnah, and so on. Said a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, Eizu Ashir, who's the one who's wealthy? Asameach bechelko, who's happy with what he has. So if I just give you a blessing to be rich, that doesn't mean that it'll translate in your bank account. You might come back and say, even though I didn't make $1, no, at least I have a family. So I gave you a blessing that you should be rich midoraita. He said, what does midoraita mean? What does that help? So he tells him it's very simple. The Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat Daf Chaf Hei, Eizu Ashir, who's wealthy? This is the Gemara, this is not my example. It seems like that was a example of wealth. The Gemara says, Kol sheyesh lo bet kiseh samuch l'shulchano, somebody who has an indoor restroom. Back then that was considered a big luxury, so I guess it was a symbol of wealth. And there's other things in the Gemara too. Now that's also midrabanan. That's also the words of the Chachamim. Again, it's not literal. It's just for the story. So he said, I didn't want you to have only that also, even though that symbolizes some sort of better statue of living. He said in the Torah, it says in the pasuk, that's midoraita, meaning the words of the Torah itself. V'tzalta kesef biadecha, and you should hold the money in your hand. That means it shouldn't be theoretical wealth. It should be factual wealth, something that's tangible, that you could actually hold on to. That's why I blessed you that you should be ashir midoraita, based on the psukim, the way the pasuk says. Fine. In today's world, we understand this even deeper. There are people that have great wealth, that their net value, as we call it, is enormous. Even in the Orthodox Jewish community. We have not millionaires. Today, to be a millionaire is almost a disgrace. Billionaires. We have many, not one or no. It's unreal. But in reality, is that liquid money? No, the vast majority of one's wealth is not liquid. Meaning, in theory, if they wanted the money now, it's non-existent. Between investments and assets and this and that and, there is a net value that's very large. That's why one of the famous excuses that some wealthy people give when they don't want to donate money to charity, unfortunately, because maybe they forgot that the money's not theirs anyway. I'm not liquid now. I'm not liquid now. I remember years ago, today, Baruch Hashem, people come to me, I don't have to go to them, but I had to go for my charity fund to a specific guy, and I was told before I went to him that this guy always has excuses. Nobody ever gets money out of him. I said, that's why I'm going to him. Other guys they come on their own. I don't have to go to them. But him, it's already a challenge. It's fun. I'm going to go. So I went to his office. His office was in Manhattan back then. Now he's retired already. He's a big tzaddik. But then there was a stigma about him like that. And it's a building, a tall building. In the entranceway, there's a convenient, like a little shop that sells all different technicalities, cigarettes, drinks, this, lottery, whatever. Hashem gave it to me in my head. I went into the shop before I went up to his office, and every drink that I didn't know that wasn't dairy, I bought at least one of. I had bags. I paid for it, like $100 of drinks, and I left. I go into the elevator, I go upstairs to his office, took me in like a king, sits me down, what do you want, this, that. I said, first I want to put some things out on your desk. And I start digging into the bag. Coke, Diet Coke, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Red Bull. The guy's looking at me like I fell off my rockers. He's like, Yaakov, you think I don't have drinks in the office? Go to the pantry. There's everything in the world is over here. So we spend hours and hours a day here. Food, this. I even house a chef, he tells me. I have an in-house chef to cook for everybody. I said, that's not why I did it. He said, why'd you do it? I said, let me finish first. I covered his whole desk with bottles. Every type. Whatever there was, if there would have been more in that store, there would have been more on his desk. As many square inches as I can was covered. Then I told my dear friend, I came because right now I got X amount of thousands of families that need help. And I know that you're going to tell me you're not liquid. Look how much liquid you have. Now can I get my check? He liked my line, he smiled, he took a check, he left it. He said, you fill it out to what you understand, have a good day. And I understood. But there is such a concept for real. I know definitely during COVID when people, transactions were extremely limited in certain industries, I have friends that have assets and very comfortably, very, very comfortably. But still came to me and asked me, could I borrow a few $1,000s for a few days for a technical reason? There was no cash flow, there was no transaction, nothing going on. So it's like, yesh mitashel ve'en kol, as wealthy as could be, but worthless. Nothing right now. So Zushar, it says, that's another explanation in this thing. That it's not only enough that Hashem should bless somebody with wealth. It should be wealth that he has access to immediately when he wants it or when he needs it. Not wealth that's tied up and he has to wait and see and dividends and when will I get paid out, quarterly, annually, next year, this year. Something that's tangible, something I can actually hold on to. It's a very big thing. Fine. Now, obviously, I'm not here to talk about money. It's just, I have better things to do in my life than that. But there's a much deeper point. Now, a bunch of years ago, I was honored in a dinner along with others, not alone, for a girls' school in Lakewood that my daughter had attended, my only daughter attended. And she was the first graduating class of the school, so parents of the graduating class were honored. It was a great fundraising idea at the time. I don't attend dinners in general, because quite frankly, if I want to donate money to an organization, the last thing I want to do is that part of that money should go to waste on my food. So I'd rather not attend than give them a donation without it. Thank God today, most of charity fundraisers are becoming clicks on Raise It and these other types of platforms, so it saves organizations from wasting tons of money for no reason. But then I did. That was one of the few dinners in my life that I ever attended. That's why it's etched in my brain. And the speaker was the Mashgiach of Lakewood, Hashem send him for Matisyahu Salomon. Big Adam Yirei Shamayim, big tzaddik. He's less heard of today because unfortunately he hasn't been well for a lot of years, but he was a powerhouse then. And he had an unbelievable rhetoric. He knew how to present the case in an amazing way. And I remember his speech, short to the point, 2-3 minutes. I remember what he said, but there is a piyut, a song that the Ashkenaz sings. There are many piyutim that they sing Saturday night. In the Sephardic Jewry, we have less of that Saturday night. And it's funny because in general, we're more into having piyutim. Our Friday night piyutim are longer than the exile. But Saturday night, they have more than us. And one of the piyutim that they have, one of the more ancient ones, is a piyut that begins vaguely, Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, a God who differentiated between holy and not, and regular weekdays. Chatoteinu hu yimchol, will forgive our sins. Obviously, this was just done for the purpose of rhyme. Zareinu, our children, v'chaspeinu, and our money, yarbe kachol, he will multiply like dust. Kakochavim balayla, like the stars at night. The Gaon Mivilna didn't allow, and if you look in the Siddur that's based on the Gaon of Vilna's custom, this piyut is not there. He didn't allow to sing this piyut. And his reasoning was, Shabbat is just over and already money? What happened to Kedushat Shabbat? First thing, Shabbat's over, we sing, Zareinu v'chaspeinu, my money. He was mevatel. He didn't want that they should sing this piyut. So Rabbi Solomon said this, and this was his speech. With one conclusion. Obviously, this was for fundraising purposes. He said, and I think, not that I should be arguing on the Gaon, but I think the reason why Am Yisrael continued singing this piyut is because we put two words close to each other, which seemed to be almost inappropriate to put them in one sentence. Zareinu v'chaspeinu, children and money. Can you compare, what type of, in one sentence? Are your children worth to you more than your money? So I said the answer is, this goes well with a school dinner. In order to have zareinu, in order to have children that come out good, you need chaspeinu. Tuition in Jewish schools are very expensive. It's not a cheap thing to raise good kids. And that's why we start off the week and say, God, listen, children you gave me, now give me the money that I should be able to raise them properly and give them a good education. That was his speech back then. Which is the premises for the case that finance in the capitalistic world is about power, about fame, about comfort, let's say, on a lower scale. But that's really what it's about. Image, maybe. Honor. That's the extent. In the Jewish world, in the spiritual world, that's not the story at all. Finance is actually one of the more spiritual things that one can accomplish. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was the example of Torah v'gdula b'makom echad. That he merited to have Torah and to be extremely wealthy. The Gemara goes into great length to describe his wealth. If wealth wasn't important, then the Gemara wouldn't spend lines on discussing his wealth. Obviously, there's a spiritual value to finance. So, in another one of the piyutim of Saturday night that the Ashkenaz have, they have an interesting type of quote there. Patz lo hamvaser be'emet hayom titasher. Hamvaser is Eliyahu Navi that's going to one day, hopefully very soon, tell us that Mashiach's here. So Patz lo hamvaser, Saturday night's the night of Eliyahu Navi. Be'emet, in truth, what do we want right now? Hayom titasher, today to be rich. It seems like there was a lot of piyutim about money Saturday night. I don't know. Not sure why, but there was. No. So in simple grammar, if you want to say that it's some sort of prayer for wealth, which I have no problem with, then it could have said, Patz la hamvaser, hayom titasher. Why'd they add in the word be'emet? Really, today you should be rich. But based on what we're saying, it's very simple, because even within the quest for wealth on a spiritual level, we don't want virtual wealth. Not even cryptocurrency, believe it or not. I want tangible wealth. Something that's, why? Because from a Jewish perspective, wealth has one and only one purpose. A mean to accomplish a person's goal in the world. Now for each one it's something else. For one it's to be able to support his son-in-laws that they should study in Kollel. For the other one it's to give a ton of charity. For the third one it's whatever, to do some other heroic act. And on a lower level, not in what we consider wealth in today's capitalistic world, it's a means to buy, the Chazal talk about mitzvot that one wouldn't be obligated to keep if they can't afford them. All right, a person only has to spend 20% of his total value on a mitzvah. If it's beyond that, then he doesn't have to, he has no way to access what it takes to do the mitzvah, then he doesn't have to do the mitzvah. Meaning, hypothetically speaking, if somebody lives on a deserted island and doesn't have a pair of tefillin and has no life expenses because he lives on the island, he fishes, that's how he eats some greens that grow, doesn't have any money, doesn't own anything in the world, and he's technically obligated to wear tefillin. If he has no access for somebody who's going to give him or loan him tefillin, he's not obligated to spend more than 20% of his total value. It's not his liquid value, his total value in order to buy tefillin. And if in that case he doesn't put on tefillin, again, this is not halakha l'maaseh, but this is the simple understanding in halakha. He's patur. He doesn't have to wear tefillin. There seems to be an halakha contradiction to this somewhere, which is interesting. There's one of the mitzvot in the Torah is pidyon haben. Now I'm not going into all the criteria of pidyon haben, learn it on your own, but if you have a firstborn that's born naturally and with all the contingencies, and you're not a Kohen and a Levi, so after 30 days you have to do a mitzvah called pidyon haben. Pidyon haben revolves around five coins, meaning a value of money. So the Gemara has a discussion if a person himself is a firstborn and his parents never did a pidyon haben for him, and he now had a baby. Pidyon haben is a mitzvah forever, meaning if somebody's a Baal Tshuva and his parents didn't do a pidyon haben for him and they were obligated to, he's obligated now as an adult to do it for himself. Besides, there are people, I'm not telling you to do this, because otherwise it can get out of hand and become OCD, but I'm a firstborn. I've done pidyon haben for myself hundreds of times, because today it's hard to know who's really a Kohen and who's not. So just in case, many pidyon habens that I attended, I did it again and again just to make sure we got the mitzvah. Now I'm not saying to do that because that might be a little OCD, but there is such a thing. By the Hasidim, especially by the Hasidic rabbis, you see it it's very common to see such a thing done. So here's a guy, he's a Baal Tshuva, he just became religious. B'shat Tova, had a baby boy a couple of days later, his first son. He's not a Kohen or a Levi, she's not natural birth, fits all the criteria, has the obligation of pidyon haben. But he's broke. He has to give the Kohen money. And in his case, it's not one pidyon haben. He needs to do one for himself, and he has to do one for his child. Because nobody ever did for him, and now he has the obligation for his child too. So the Gemara has a discussion. Who kodem libno he can only afford one, he only has money for one. Should he do his own, or should he do his son's? That's a discussion in the Gemara. Without getting to the conclusion of the Gemara, because that would take more time than we have, the Chafetz Chaim asks, he doesn't understand the question of the Gemara at all. If all he has is enough money to do one, that means he's spending all his money on the mitzvah. But on the mitzvah, you only have to spend 20% of your money. So who kodem libno, bno kodem lo? Neither one. He's patur completely for him and for his son. What happened to ambazbez, al yibazbez yoter michomesh, that you don't have to spend more than 20% of your money? That's the Chafetz Chaim's question. The Chafetz Chaim writes an answer that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. He says, why is it that we have this discussion at all of not spending more than 20%? Why is it like that? So Chafetz Chaim says, because Hashem doesn't want a person to become poor from doing a mitzvah. He doesn't prove it, by the way. He just says it from misvara, from his logic. Therefore, if a person's going to use more than 20% of his net value on a mitzvah, he's going to become poor from doing a mitzvah like that. So therefore, Hashem said not to do it. Comes to Chafetz Chaim and says, but if somebody only owns 5 coins, he's poor anyway. So it's not applicable, so at least the mitzvah he should have. That's what he writes. He writes that halakha, by the way, not as a Hasidic word. He writes that halakha l'maaseh, that's his logic. He's poor anyway. So, by the way, many people distorted this halakha into saying, based on that, a person is not allowed to give more than 20% to charity. That's a distortion, because in halakha it says like this: if one has an average minus income, meaning that they're struggling for survival, then he's not allowed to give more than 20% charity. But if one doesn't have that, then he's considered a nashir, a wealthy person, al pi halakha. And then how much charity does he have to give? Kefit tzorech ha'aniim. As long as there's any poor person left in the world, he still has to continue giving. So it's very interesting how certain halachot people conveniently picked out and flash all the time when they don't even understand what it says over there. Besides, the Shlach Kadosh says if somebody ever did a sin, so Chazal teach us, Rabbi Atra discusses it at length, v'chatatecha b'tzedakah prok, the easiest way to get forgiveness for a sin is by giving charity. So Mamela, at that point, it's not charity, it's charity for a purpose. And then, of course, a person doesn't want to come to after 120 with sins. So the more the merrier. That's just so nobody takes the wrong idea out of this. But either way, we see that Hashem protected Jewish money. Because even for his own mitzvot, God gave him mitzvah, and he says, no, but above a certain point, they're not. So what does it mean, be'emet? Real. And what's the Jewish value at the end of the day behind it? So in the Ashkenaz version of Birkat HaChodesh, they pray for a long list of things, and amongst them they pray for Chaim shel Osher v'Chavod, a life of wealth and honor. It almost makes you feel uncomfortable to hear that, no? Imagine you asking a 5-year-old kid, your nephew, your niece, what do you want in life? I want to be rich, and I want everybody to bow down to me. Something would be wrong, no? We would right away call a therapist to see what to do. The kid needs help. He doesn't. He's right, actually. We pray, Birkat HaChodesh, on Shabbat. When we don't ask for personal things on Shabbat. On Shabbat. Yhi Ratzon, God, we're praying for the next month. What's on the list of things that's very important for the next month? Chaim, life, shel Osher v'Chavod. Wealth and honor. What's pshat? This is it. That's number one. Number two, we do it. It's in there too. Well, over here I'm talking about what. Number two, when they composed this prayer, they forgot that the Mishnah says, "Eizu ashir hasameach b'chalko." Isn't that a direct contradiction to that? Be happy who you have. What are you praying for wealth for? So of course the wisecracks are going to say, we're praying Chaim Shel Osher not to be rich really. That we should, a life that we're happy with what we have. That's not what it says. It says Osher with an ayin, simply put, we're praying for straight wealth. So what's pshat in that? Number two, normally wealthy people respect them. I don't know why, but they do. He's a well-respected member of our community. That's a nice way of saying he has a bank account with seven digits plus liquid. So, but here we see that it seems to be two separate things. Chaim shel Osher v'Chavod. We need two separate requests for it. So where does the honor come in? And also what? It's just the opposite. Hashem hates people that are arrogant and that look for honor and seek honor. To make that into a prayer, for sure, it can't be. So, this question was asked to many. The many Sfarim that wrote about this. Amongst them, a great Hasidic Rebbe named Imre Chaim from Vizhnitz, the Vizhnitzer Rebbe. One of the previous ones, obviously. And the Vizhnitzer Rebbe had a couple of approaches on this, and it was very interesting. The one is, he said that Chaim shel Osher v'Chavod is not two separate requests, it's one request. It's God, make me wealthy, but in a respectable way. Some people do very dirty things to obtain their wealth. They take crazy risks, they step on other people, they don't do business honestly, they round corners, they're arrogant. So we say, God, make me wealthy, but make sure that it comes in a way that's respectable. That's not a way that I belittled myself for the sake of making another dollar. That was one of his explanations in what this prayer means. Obviously, that's a nice way out, but that's in pshat that wouldn't work so well, because then it should say Chaim shel Osher b'derech kavod, in dikduk, in a way of honor. Not it doesn't say that. So if it doesn't say that, lichora, it's two separate blessings. And then he just said a sharp line in general, which he said, and if you want to say it's two separate prayers, so we're praying that people should be rich, and that people that are rich should want honor. What does that mean? He said, when he asks people for money for the Bet Midrash, they don't give him. When do they give him? When they know they'll announce their name or they'll put the name on the building, so then they donate very easily. So we pray to God, Chaim shel osher v'chavod. There should be wealth, and the wealthy people should also want honor, so like this we can get money out of them. To plaster their names on places. Yeah, that's what Chaim was very sharp, so he didn't cut slack for his people. He told it to them exactly the way he thought it. So that was one of his ways of going about this. But Lamaaseh, what's really pshat? So there's another very interesting element to all this. We asked, on one hand we pray to have wealth, on the other hand it seems like Chazal is telling us to be happy with what we have. On one hand, the Gemara praises these rabbis that were living in poverty. On the other hand, the Gemara praises these rabbis that were extremely wealthy and talk about the greatness of Torah v'Gdula b'makom echad. There seems to be constant conflict on this subject throughout Chazal. So maybe the answer is that there is no contradiction at all. The Gemara says, "Ein adam met v'chatzi ta'avato biyado." One doesn't die without half his desire in his hands. Yesh lo maneh, if he has a maneh, 100. Otzeh ma'atayim, he wants 200. I mean, people are never happy with what they have. By the way, many years ago, I had a Rosh Yeshiva, almost 12 years old. I was learning it since high school, called the Stanford Yeshiva, Yeshivat Beit Binyamin. The Rosh Yeshiva was Rav Simcha Shustel. And one Sudah Shlishit he spoke. It was during Elul. It was the last Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah. And by the Ashkenaz, it's called Shabbat Slichot. And by Sudah Shlishit, he quoted this Gemara. I still remember his pshat then. And he said he doesn't understand. The Gemara says, "Ein adam met v'chatzi ta'avato biyado." Nobody dies with half of what he wants. Yesh lo maneh, if he has 100. Otzeh ma'atayim, he wants 200. Isn't 100 exactly half of 200? That's what I was taught. So the Gemara should have said, "Adam met v'chatzi ta'avato biyado." A person dies with half of the amount he wants. God says, "Ein adam met." A person doesn't die v'chatzi ta'avato. That's what he asked. And he said that this question was also asked by Rav Eliyahu Lapian. I later on found it in a footnote in the Sefer Lev Eliyahu that's written from Rav Eliyahu Lapian. So Rav Shustel said a pshat. I wonder why he was talking to us. Well, most of the boys were much older than me, but we were still younger boys, let's say. Why this was important, I'm not sure. Maybe to teach us for other things. But he said a very nice pshat. He said the Gemara doesn't say "Ein adam met v'chatzi mamono biyado." A person doesn't die with half his money in his hands. It says v'chatzi ta'avato, half his desire. Meaning, he said, the desire for more is so much more painful than the pleasure from what you do have. It's obvious if you think about it. You got guys today that are worth $20 billion, and they're still working like dogs all day and all night. Nutcase. For what? You could spend $1 million a day for the rest of your life on nothing and never run out of money, not you and your children, just from the capital gains forever. So what are you working for? What's the answer? The Chazal already said, in his mind he's poor.
It's just the drive. Yeah.
Once Rav Aryeh Shechter, Zecher Tzadik Levacha, had to convince a boy that left yeshiva to come back, and the boy told him he doesn't want to go back, and he said, "Why not?" He said, "Because of money." He said, "If you go to yeshiva, you'll be a lot wealthier than not being in yeshiva." So he said, how does that math work? So he said, I'll give it to you in two different ways. You pick which way you connect with. He said, one way is like this. Let's say you learn another 3-4 years, then comes Shidduchim. You'll be the top boy in learning. Everybody's going to be chasing you. And in Israel, a good boy equals an apartment. A better boy equals 2 apartments, one to live in and one to rent out, to have an income, to pay the bills. He said, if you go out now to college, it'll take you 8 years to get your master's degree. Then you'll start making an income, have to pay back student loans. How many years will it take you to get to $500,000? 25 years from now. Yeah, I'm giving you away. In 3 years, you could have it. Paid in full. He said, so who's richer? Now, again, I'm not here to say that that's the right way of living or right way of doing it. That wasn't my case. But that's a fact of life in Israel, and as a result, it's such a sad fact of life, by the way, that I know, including relatives of mine, girls that are really good girls in every way, shape, and form, meaning they have all the ma'alot that exist. And unfortunately, the years go by and they don't get married because their parents simply cannot have no way to afford to pay these, I call them ransoms. Literally. They can't. It's a very frightening thought, but I don't know. That's why I don't agree with the whole idea behind it. But it existed in Klal Yisrael and Israel. In America, Baruch Hashem, I don't think it exists so much. But in Israel, it existed very strongly. So that was one of his cases to him. His second case then was this Chazal. He didn't say the Pshat from Rav Shustel, but based on Rav Simcha Shustel's Pshat, we understand it better. He said, let's say you go to work today, and you make $1 million, $2 million. Chazal say, you don't die with half your desire. So what does that mean? How much are you missing? 2 million. Let's say you stay in yeshiva now, so your allowance is 50 shekel a week. So how much are you missing? 50 shekel. So who's better off? Somebody who's missing 50 shekel or somebody who's missing $2 million? And that convinced him. He went back to yeshiva. He's still learning till today, many, many years later. 30-something years later, he's still learning. Unbelievable. But so Rav Simcha over here said a chidush, that the desire for the next thing is so much greater than the set. And we see this. Listen, let's be real. The whole shopping industry wouldn't exist otherwise. You already bought 86 pairs of shoes, so why do you need number 87? Because all the 86, the day they arrived, are already worthless. That's why retail works. If not, retail wouldn't work. The whole thing would be stupid. But that's the human nature. So why does Hashem make a person like that? Seems shallow, no? It's very... Ugh. The answer is, because if we wouldn't be like that, then we wouldn't want to learn either. I already learned today 5 minutes. What do I have to learn more for? Nobody would want to do chesed. I already did a chesed 3 years ago. What do I have to do on today for? I put on tefillin Erev Rosh Hashanah. What do I have to put on tefillin today for? Nobody would want to do any mitzvot. So Hashem put it into a person that he should always be burning for more. Now, once we put that in the nature of a person, it's unfair to make it in one and not only in spirituality and not in other things. So it had to be unanimous across the board. So in materialistic things, it's like that too. The sad part is, as the majority of society took it for materialistic things, and for the spiritual things, they buried it. The only reason why you have that drive is for spiritual things. And now you took the drive for spiritual things and buried, suppressed it completely, and for materialism, it's the never-ending chase. Based on this, there's no contradiction here at all. You know what else it says in the prayer of Rosh Chodesh that they say in the Ashkenaz world? On one hand, they pray, Chaim sheyeh b'hem osher v'chavod, but they also pray, Chaim shetei banu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim. A life that we should love Torah and have fear of God. What does that mean? What's pshat over here? They come to Hashem and say, you made us people that always want more. Don't let us only fall into the trap of wanting money and fame. Chaim, let's use it primarily for the real thing. We should want more Ahavat Torah and Yirat Shamayim. And Derech Agav also, we'll use it for materialistic things too, as a mean to accomplish, to be able to do more mitzvot with it. Lichora, their order should have been reversed. So the answer is that after somebody becomes wealthy, he needs to say a very big prayer that he doesn't become crazy. And that's ma'asim b'chol yom. We see kids that came out of nowhere and became somewhat wealthy, and their level of arrogance and the types of humans they became so disgusting that it would have been a lot better for them not to be rich. There's a very famous story, I'm sure I said it in the past. But certain Jewish stories are legendary and should be classics in every Jewish home. Chaim Volozhin had a student. I came to him once and told him he's very poor and this and that. And it's a big test for him and he's not passing the test and he wants to have money. How do you say money in Lashon HaKodesh? Kesef. He needs kesef. So Chaim Volozhin said, okay, and let's say I'll bless you and you'll have a lot of money. What are you going to do with it? So I have to make sure that it's a good blessing to give. Some people, you give them money, in Gaza, when they give them money, they make rockets to bomb Israel with it. You got to know what the person's going to do with his money. I said, what do you mean, Rabbi? I'm going to pay my family's bills or whatever, and then the rest I'm going to give to charity. What's the question at all? So you sure? He said, I'm sure. Said, if that's the case, Hashem's going to help you, going to be rich. He left the Chaim Volozhin's house with Emunah Pshuta, the rabbi said, and everything he touched, suddenly gold. Money, he's printing money, it's unreal. Wherever he's going, deal after deal, everything's coming his way, and he's rich. And deep down he knows, he promised, he's going to use whatever he needs comfortably for his family, and the rest he's going to give away. And suddenly he became the stingiest person ever. It's unreal. I see this today in the real world. The richer they become, the less they give in general. Of course, the Yechidei Zgulah that are different, but in general it's like that. So, but he was an honest man. And he realized the sickness, he's sick. So he went back to Chaim Volozhin. He said, Rebbe, your blessing worked. And I want to stick to my promise. I'm not capable. Every time I just can't. I get stuck. I can't do it. He said, give me a blessing that I should stick to my promise. Or advice at least. He said, a blessing to do a mitzvah, there is no such thing. You got to work on your character traits and do the mitzvah. He said, advice that I could give you. I'll explain you what's going wrong, and then figure out what to do about it yourself. He used to live on a second floor. Then there wasn't buildings, but it was structure. Like big buildings, like there was buildings, but not big buildings like that. And he takes him to the window, and he tells him, look. And he looks through the window, and he says, what do you see outside? He says, what do you mean, what do I see? He says, tell me, describe me what you see. He says, I see trees, I see this, I see that. He said, what else do you see? People. What are they doing? Walking. He said, 1 minute. He goes and he takes a piece of silver from his closet, and he puts it behind the glass of the window. And then he tells the person, look in the window, tell me what you see. And he says, what do you mean, what do I see? I see myself. Put silver behind glasses, called a mirror. He said, so from here you learn something. When there's kesef, all you see is yourself. Silver is also called kesef. When there's no kesef, you could still see other people. So he said, but Rebbe, so what's the solution? I should lose all my money? Then I also won't be able to help anybody. He said, the solution is to give it before it comes in, so the kesef doesn't blind you. Give it in advance, before it comes in. I can tell you from, and I only share this so maybe somebody will learn from it somewhere in the world. When a lot of business deals that I do, I don't trust the people involved that they're going to give the charity that they have to. Structured into the contract of the actual deal is that X percentage, just like the broker gets paid out, this one, the lawyer gets, everybody gets paid out, a direct check, the money can't come into the corporation, goes to this and this charity foundation. Because once the money came into the account, the Yetzirah for it to go out is very big. Like this, I never had it, I don't have it, who cares? Goodbye. Let it go. And like this, you build up Gan Eden. Unbelievable thing. But that was his yisod. When there's kesef, we don't see anybody. But that's not to be negative, because there's a very optimistic side to it too. There's a very famous voice from the Berditchever Rebbe. There's one of the most, probably the most famous voice from him, that he once got up by him, before Nila of Yom Kippur, and he said, Ribono Shel Olam, when they prayed to you this morning and they said, V'chein ten pachtecha, they really meant give us money. And when they said ten kavod la'amecha, they really meant give us money. And if you look at every single prayer of everything that the whole Jewish nation prayed, the whole Rosh Hashanah and the whole Kippur, all they meant was give us money. Now the Berditchever was the ultimate optimist, right? He would never talk that way. And then he paused and he said, but Rebbeinu Shalom, listen to this one. He said, but if you squeeze out all that money that you're going to give them, the only thing that's going to come out is more mitzvot and more mitzvot and more mitzvot. So don't take it personal that they only spoke about money. Look at it, look through, look past that. Realize that they really want to do good. It's just a means of doing good. It's come Chazal and tell you like this. Eizu ashir hasameach b'chelko. Chelko means your portion. Your portion doesn't only mean how much you have, it's your general portion in life. And could be the pshat is like this. A lot of times, people are wealthy, and as a result, they're large donors to good Jewish causes, like synagogues, for example. But it comes with contingencies. They make the contract with the rabbi's scared of them. Almost every synagogue, the rabbi's scared of the president because he doesn't have a job otherwise. I don't know what they need a rabbi for then. They should just put a video. Same thing. Why do they even waste the salary for the rabbi? I was never willing to accept a salary from any synagogue I ever served in because I said, I'm not going to owe you anything. And you're not going to threaten me that I'll lose my job because you're not paying me anyway. Guess what? I don't, Al Pi Halacha, Moshe Rabbeinu, if you got a bribe, meaning if you gave him money, he couldn't be a dayan. So how's a rabbi supposed to lead a community when you have to think about that. There's a lot to think about on that subject. And no rabbi is going to like hearing this one. But yeah, because they need to live too, and I'm not saying they don't. I don't know what the solution is. I don't have a solution. I'm just making a point. But where does the problem really stem from? It's not the rabbis. Why does a guy who went to business school think that he knows anything about halakha? He doesn't. So who are you to tell a rabbi what he could or can't say? So you donate money, congratulations, now what? Where does that arrogance come from? Come Chazal and tell you, if you want to be rich, the first condition is, not condition that it'll work. Sometimes it works, but in a bad way. The Pasuk says, Yesh osher hashamur leba'alav l'ra'ato. There's wealth that's treacherous. It causes the biggest disasters in the world. But if you want to be rich in a healthy way, the first thing you got to remember is, what's your place? Hashem gave you a gift that you have money. That doesn't mean that He made you a Talmid Chacham. That you have to do yourself. So leave Torah to the Talmidei Chachamim, and business, they'll leave to you. When the one who has the money is telling the Talmid Chacham what he should or shouldn't do, that's when Bechelko means don't be rich. Then the wealth is a disaster. And unfortunately, it's a very, very fine line. There is a very famous story from the Ropshitz Rebbe, Zechat Tzadik L'Revacha, Rabbi Naftali Ropshitz, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, that he was once sitting with the board of his, we'll call it board then, it wasn't called board, it was called something else, but that idea of his community. And they were discussing a few matters that had to do with the community. So the majority of the people there were the wealthy people, and then there was his gabbai, him, and the rabbi, the active posek. So they spoke about the needs before Pesach, the poor people, they spoke about this, they spoke about that, and each one said what his opinion is and what to do to help and what their responsibilities are. And the Ropshitz Rebbe was all into it, and he was encouraging them and everything. And then came up a halacha question about something to do with the baking of the matzot. And one of the wealthy people said something. And the Ropshitz Rebbe said, at this point, all wealthy people, please leave the room. The guy looked at him like, what? He said, money is your expertise. So as long as we were talking about money, we needed your advice. Halakha, unfortunately, is not yet your expertise. So your opinion is not only not going to help, it's actually going to confuse us. So now, all wealthy people, please leave the room. That's why there seems to be paradoxes in Chazal. There's no paradox, there's no contradiction. Chazal telling you, for one person, well, it's the greatest thing in the world. He'll do good things with it, he'll stay normal, he'll stay humble. The greatest blessing, it should. Adrabah. For the other person, it could be a big disaster. If Yehuda Nasi was able to be the richest man ever in history that we know of, maybe Shlomo HaMelech, I don't know what, the Pashtut of Yehuda Nasi, at least the Chazal flaunt his wealth in a big way, because everything he had, he threw out so the poor people should feel comfortable to take it. So for him, Torah v'gdula b'makom echad. His wealth helped his Torah, it helped his mitzvot, it was a good thing. Other people, lo aleinu, it did the opposite extreme. It made things play out very, very differently, we should say. Ad kan about the dollar sign. But now let's take it further. And this is really where I was leading to. In life, everybody has a skill set. Some people have larger skill sets, some people have smaller skill sets, but that Hashem decided how much He gives each person and how many areas. But everybody's talented in something, at least one thing. Most people are talented in way more than one thing. Number one, it's an insult to Hashem if you don't acknowledge it. It's not being humble to say, I don't have any talents in life. That's being stupid. Hashem created you, He gave you gifts. You have talents. You don't have to be arrogant about it, but be aware of your strong points. Be aware of what you're good at, because otherwise you're not going to use it for anything. And that would be a real waste. Kabed Hashem ma'oncha, Hashem says, respect me with the skills I gave you. Hashem gave somebody a talent in art, for example. And so it wasn't that he should stay home and not draw. If Hashem didn't want him to draw, He wouldn't give it to him. He said he should draw, but he should draw pictures that have an impact on the world in a positive way, that bring joy to the world, that bring spirituality to the world. Art in general has a huge impact on the way society thinks and feels. Huge impact. Music, that's for sure. The Gaon writes in two different places. That's the closest thing to Chokhmat HaTorah is music, and without the Chokhmah of music, there's no way to understand Chokhmat HaTorah. So Hashem says, yeah, we're giving you skills, and take that skill set. But take that skill set in a way that you're becoming a better person from it. Not that you're becoming a nobody from it. I use the example of music, so I'll tell you over the years I've had, I don't have to call it a privilege, but by default, on the speaking trail, I interacted with a bunch of young celebrities in the musical world, Jewish and non, all over the world. And I found a very interesting thing, obviously without saying names, that the vast majority of singers that I met that were young stars at a very young age, I think in America there's a nickname for them, the Disney stars or something like that, or whatever. They're very young and they're already superstars and they have top-selling albums and they're all over every network. By the time they were 15, 16, something was messed up in their head already. They were doing drugs, they were getting in trouble, they were having issues. The vast majority, almost nobody beat that. Many that started at a much older age were fine. I'm not saying all. There are plenty that weren't. The rock and roll era and whatever, plenty that weren't. But at least there were. And I've spoken to many of these people from different backgrounds and cultures. They came to me, I didn't go to them. To me, they're no idols of any sort. And I remember in one specific interaction with somebody, guy comes to me and he says, I want to speak to you. And I said, okay, but the people waiting. He said, you don't know who I am? I said, no. He said, I got 2-point-something billion views on YouTube. You don't know who I am? I said, no. I said, and guess what? If you would have done something productive in your life, I would have known who you are. So obviously you did not even accomplish that yet. He said, wow, that was brutally honest. At least he identified it. But a lot of these people recognize they became too famous too quickly and they weren't emotionally equipped to deal with it because they were kids. And that's what made them crazy. They lost the grasp of reality of the way the world runs and the way you have to be normal and to lead a normal life. And not only didn't it help them, it destroyed them. And some of them were lucky that at a certain point they had, whether it was managers or parental figures or other things that caught them under control and kept them intact, and that's why they are still here to say the story. The other ones died of overdoses of combinations of alcohol and drugs. As unfortunately, I'm sure you all know many names like that. That means Hashem gives you a skill set, and if you use it for things that are productive, it's the greatest blessing in the world. And it'll get you very, very far. And if you use it for things that aren't productive, it's not only not going to help you, it's going to make you extremely miserable. But then there's a step further, and this is very deep. I call tonight's class a pure heart. How does a person know if they're doing something productive with their skill set or not? Because productive is very up for interpretation, right? The feminists that are marching around the world with some stupid signs think they're productive too, when all they're doing is embarrassing themselves and all human intelligence. And the pro-choice people that are murdering people also think they're doing something productive, and the list goes on, right? And I'm sure the head of the Hamas also thinks he's doing something productive when he showers rockets into Israel. There's no end. So how does How does a person gauge? Not on a large scale, just for himself. Bishel Salanta says, Halavai, you should fix yourself. Then we'll see about the world. So it's very simple. How does it affect you if somebody else also has the skill set that you have, and he or she is better than you in the same skill set? If they become a role model to learn from, how to get better, then you know you're using your skill set right. But if they shatter your confidence, or you feel jealous, or now you have to compete, then you know you're wasting your time. You're using your skill set for the most evil reasons in the world. Because anything pure can't harm you. Anything eternal, anything that's really godly, won't harm you. Chazal have long lists of discussions and with very harsh terms, including in Pirkei Avot, against jealousy, for example. That's one of the things that Chazal spoke a lot about, how bad jealousy is. Last week I gave a class about it. A virtual class about it. Brings people down in life. Kills people. On the flip side, the same Chazal write, Kinat Sofrim Tarbe Chochma. Jealousy amongst the scholars will cause more intellect, more learning. What does that mean? That when there's a pure jealousy of Shem Shamayim, it's not jealousy the way we know it. He has a Bentley, so I need one too. And being that I don't, so now I hate him. When there's a pure jealousy, what it means is, wait a second, he learned the whole Shas and I didn't. So when am I going to be him? When am I going to have a chance? And that's going to not only not break me, it's going to motivate me to still learn. I met a guy, not in person, through the phone, one day, and he called me for something, business related, and then I could tell in the way he's speaking that I didn't even know he was Jewish by his name. But then, with time, I realized that not only he's Jewish, he's an Orthodox Jew, and not only he's an Orthodox Jew, he has to be a well-learned Orthodox Jew. So I told him, I said, let's get to the point. You know, we both come from the same shtibel, I guess, so what's the deal with you? He tells me an amazing thing. He says that he was raised, I forgot the name, but somewhere in the Midwest, in the U.S., in a community, a rural town, and there's a few Jews that live there, very few, and there's no recollection to anything Jewish. He's not even Reformed, forget about Orthodox. Nothing. He said that once he went on one of these Taglit trips to Israel, and it was his first time going to Israel. He didn't even know what that Jewish identity meant. Not much meant much to him. He said, and back then the trips, I'm not encouraging these trips today because the sins that go on there, Hashem Yachem, but there was still a time that there was some normal trips like that. And one of the places they took him was to Mea Shari, to Geula and Mea Shari, on a Thursday night. He said he came, and they took them to taste authentic Jewish foods. They go to all these little shops over there and they eat challah and they eat cholent and they eat this and herring and everything that can kill you. But it's an experience, you know. A lot of times you see cars that say, I climbed Mount Washington. So, you know, I survived Mea Sharim for that Thursday night food. Same idea, not much of a difference. And I was in the shtibel one Shabbat morning, and they were having kiddush. They were serving herring, and my friends were like, "No, why don't you taste it?" I said, "Let me ask you something. Would you make a cologne that smells like this?" So they said, "No." I said, "So then why did God make it smell this way? To tell you, stay away, no? Isn't that common sense? If He would have wanted you to get close, He would have made it smell in a way that's humanly usable." But that's just a personal opinion. What are you going to do? You got Sephardic genes. There's certain things you think about foods. But anyways, I was in Mea Shari, and they took me to, we went to this place. There was a big group of people. He says, and we hear from a building singing. My tour guide thought it would be interesting to see what's going on. So he sees a bunch of Hasidic guys dancing and singing with some younger boy. And he decides to take us into the synagogue to show us Hasidim dancing, another thing on the list of the Israel experience. He said, and I was a curious boy, and I had to know what they were why they were dancing. He said, I only saw men, I didn't see women. So it's not a wedding. So what is this? What are they celebrating? He said, I went to the tour guide and I asked him, what do they celebrate? He said, I had no idea. I said, can you find out? He said, sure. And he went over to one of these Hasidic gentlemen and he said, I'm here with a group of American Jewish kids and they want to know what you're celebrating. And he points to the youngest amongst them, which was a teenager. He says, we're celebrating that he just made a siyum, he finished studying the entire Mishnah. Said, and the tour guide came back and explained me what Mishnah means based on what he knew. The tour guide himself didn't know much about Mishnah. And explained me they're making such a celebration. He said, and from that night on, I had to understand, why would you celebrate finishing reading a book? Okay, so you read a book, congrats, now what? That's a reason to be dancing? He said, and more than that, they didn't have music, they didn't have alcohol, they didn't have any stimulants, and they were dancing and singing, and they were happy. He said, and I was going clubbing every night, with music, with alcohol, with stimulants, and depressed. So I came back to America, and I started searching and searching and searching. Finally, I found more about the whole idea of Judaism and my roots. And the first time I met an Orthodox rabbi that explained me a lot about Judaism, I looked him in the face and I said, I don't know what Mishnah is, but get a hold of that book for me, because one day I want to dance like that too. Today, Bli Ayin Hara is Talmid Chacham, he learns half a day. Now the Netz is very early. This week finally it's starting to get half a minute later every day, since Wednesday I think. But it's very, very early. He wakes up an hour before the Netz starts, meaning already at 2:30 in the morning, to have an extra hour to learn before he goes to work. So he learns from like 2:30 to 4 something, and then prays Netz, and then learns again until 8:30, and then goes to work. From seeing a kid in Mea Sharim dancing with the Torah. But what made that kid dance? He could have went to Harvard or Yale and done a very good job. I know this week it made the news, the 4 brothers, quadruplets, graduated Yale. It was a whole big deal. It's no big honor to graduate Yale anymore. I think it might be better not to hear what they have to say there at this point. But I don't know, what's their celebration? They throw their hats up, that's the first thing, right? When you graduate, rebellion, I'm done. Phew, throw it all away. And then go get drunk. And that's the Ivy League. Those are the big brains. I just used my head for a couple of years, so now I'm going to fry my brain cells. I'm going to go get drunk. I didn't exaggerate, right? That's the reality of the way it is. And when we make a siyum on the Torah and Simchat Torah, we also come to shul. We also dance. But we don't need stimulants. We don't need to go crazy. Just the opposite. And what do we do immediately? Start reading the same book all over again. Because one person uses his intellect for something eternal and productive, and the other person uses his intellect for something shallow and dead end. And dead end things are very depressing. Nobody wants to be in a dead end situation in life. There's no more of a claustrophobic feeling in the world than feeling like you're in a dead end situation in your life. It's a big lesson. It's a big lesson. Come Chazal and say, Eizu Ashir, who's really rich? Rich means is not only in money, who's emotionally rich. Hasameach b'chelko, somebody who has a portion, meaning he has a purpose, he has a meaning, and he's happy because he's on the road to perfecting his purpose in life. That's the ultimate wealth that a person can have. I watched an interview with an Israeli singer who years ago was very anti-religious, to put it mildly. He said a lot of extreme things in his life. His name's Aviv Geffen, talented artist, and recently he's been a big defender of the Orthodox community. He's not religious. He openly says he doesn't even believe in God, but he's a big defender of the Orthodox. He went from extreme to extreme. I guess one day he woke up and realized, it doesn't help to hate. And recently I watched an interview of his that somebody sent me a link to, primarily to point out one thing that he said that I liked. He said that as he became more and more exposed to the Orthodox world, he became more and more jealous of them. He said, and really I have nothing to be jealous of them for. They don't have money at large, definitely not in Israel. I have plenty of money. They don't have careers, I have a huge career. I'm not talking about American Jewry, we live life very differently than they do in Bnei Brak. They have tiny houses. I live in a big mansion. They don't have cars. They're being pushed on buses. I got a whole fleet of luxury cars outside my house. I have nothing to be jealous of them. Just the opposite. They should be jealous of me. I say, you know why I'm jealous of them? Because when they wake up in the morning, they actually have a purpose. When I wake up in the morning, I got none. I said, what do you mean? But you're an artist and music. And that's not a purpose. That's a mean. That's a mean to stay sane somehow. It's a mean to do something. It's not a purpose. There's no end game. There's no actual goal. He says, I hope there'll be a day that I'll also believe in the same thing that they believe in. So I also will be lucky enough to get up to have a purpose. We have to say thank you to Hashem that He gave us a real purpose, a real ability to love, a real ability to care, a real ability to have meaning, to have goals, to have eternal goals that don't expire so it doesn't get boring or stupid at any point, and to be able to withstand the tides and the waves of society at large and specifics as well. And that's a very big deal, and that's a lot to be thankful for. Hashem should help that the whole Klal Yisrael should be rich in every area, in Torah and Chesed, and with a big heart, with a big life, with a healthy life, and all the blessings of Torah. Shabbat Shalom.